You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to episode of 23 Personnel Podcast. I am your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up?
Good evening, and just tell me if you've heard this one before. All right, so bear with me. A 5-win Texas Tech team with a third-year head coach blows a 17-point lead to a purple team in late October and loses by 1. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it does. You know what happened after that last time, Michael?
I do.
Coach got fired.
He did. I'm not calling for that. I'm not saying that should happen. I'm simply pointing out that the frustration and the sometimes anger that some of you listening may feel, and that those of you who have tweeted and who we've interacted with on the Discord throughout the day, I think that that's justified because it has cost. I know it's not the exact same scenario, but it's pretty darn close. It has cost a previous coach his job, and that is not at all what I'm saying. I'm simply saying this was bad, and I am not looking forward to talking about it. How about you?
Yeah, I actually disagree. I think this this should cost a coach his job, and I'm not sure.
I
which
thought you
one.
were disagreeing that it wasn't bad.
Oh,
that's what
no.
that's why I laughed.
Oh no.
Okay, gotcha.
No, this is Michael and I were texting as we are getting ready. we both picked this game as a loss. So like, why would we be upset to come on here and talk about a loss that we thought was going to happen on Tuesday?
Yeah, see, we knew it was coming. We should be just fine. We
We
are.
should just be just fine. And it played out just exactly how we thought it would. Josh Hoover did what he was going to do through the air. You had trouble covering. Your offense makes weird calls at weird times. Special teams blunders, that happens again. Although I guess they get a pass since they also had a positive on it.
True.
I don't know. So I'll start with me saying I think a coach should be fired, and I actually don't know which one it should be, because I can be talked into either Kitley or DeRuyter. I think DeRuyter's got skins on the wall, but you should not have been flummoxed by a wide receiver in the backfield as much as they did today. Like, you had weeks of film on this. This wasn't a surprise. You got 3 sacks today. Props. Well, you got 3 sacks in like a quarter, and then that went away.
Well, and 7 tackles for loss total. I mean, I think that was something. I know I didn't predict. I didn't predict any sort of pressure.
You forced 3 turnovers.
Huge.
You started slow. You ended slow. There in the middle 2 quarters, you gave up 7 points, but the other 2 you gave up 28. And coincidentally, that lined up perfectly with the time that you also put up 3 points per quarter. You put up 3 in the first, 3 in the fourth, where TCU put up 14 in the first, 14 in the fourth. Defense has issues. So you could talk me into, like, if somebody's gonna get fired, like, I would hesitate DeRuyter to be first. I can understand it. I can understand if some of his staff members were let go. I could also be talked into more easily. I could be talked into DeRuyter. I would be perfectly A-okay if we had a new offensive coordinator on Monday. You're like, oh, but Spencer, the offense was just fine. Was it? Was it? But you had to play a backup quarterback. You know why we had to play a backup quarterback? Because our numbnuts offensive coordinator cannot stop running our quarterback into the ground. Like, every freaking year, we've had a quarterback injury that was not a fluke injury, directly correlated to how that quarterback has been used. Oh, Alan Bowman having his chest crushed and deflating a lung. That's a freak injury. Quarterbacks going down on designed runs and snapping collarbones, not a freak injury. If you run them, this is what's happened. Also, like, I have questions, and I don't know where up the food chain it goes. You're playing not to lose. That is obviously the wrong way to go about this. But you're setting up for a go-ahead field goal there at the end of the game. Michael, the play call was to have your true freshman quarterback, who has played all of 2 quarters of his career, for him to run the ball.
He ran it 3 plays earlier. Everybody was fine with that. 4th and 2. Put it in the hands of your true freshman quarterback. Nobody complained.
That was not a designed
said
run.
A word.
It was not a designed run. Here's where I have a problem with it. The game is in the balance. You have your 5th year super senior, whatever you want to call him, All-American type of running back standing next to him. The play call is to let the true freshman scoot over to the middle of the field. If you're going to run it, then give it to Taj Brooks. If the goal is only to get like into a certain spot of the field, then give it to your seasoned veteran who knows what. Like he would absolutely understand. Everybody's coming from the ball right now. Do everything you can. I don't understand who made that decision. I mean, obviously McGuire signed off on it or is complicit by allowing these things to happen. I mean, I guess you can go back to you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. You know, hat tip to Mike Leach there. So it's like, I don't know. The other asinine thing that we've seen is our offensive coordinator brother caping up for bro on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, throwing shade at fans. Like, um, give me a second, Michael, to pull it up. If you haven't seen it, this should be a fun exercise. Hold
And I
on.
have not seen it. I have seen him be active previously, not so much this year, and maybe it's just because I haven't been paying attention or what. But I know that he can be pretty active, especially. Well, either way, he can be active after tough losses or good wins.
Where is it? Here we go. Okay. Chris Kitley, my feed this year. Fans, who cares if they're freshmen? I guess responding to like it should be Micah Hudson out there. It should be Jacoby Williams and Cam Dickey running the ball more. Blah blah blah. Or the offensive line should get a pass because some of them are you're whatever. I don't know exactly. He's not being clear here. Today, Will Hammond is the future. After a loss, why put the ball in a freshman's hands? That's it. Okay, all three of those can be simultaneously true, valid, whatever, and there still be a problem with the offense. Please tell me you're not so dense to not understand how we can say who cares if they're freshmen. That's not the one I'm most concerned. Like the comparison here, the Will Hammond is the future, and then why put the ball in the freshman's hand? Both of those things can be true and like valid simultaneously. You see that, right? Michael, what do you think? Can both of those things be true at the same time?
They can. You can praise. Look, my little headline for tonight, if anyone's watching the video, is Hammond heroics. You know, we were really impressed with what he was able to do, especially coming in. I know that he did at least get. It sounds like he got halftime to know that he was coming in, so it wasn't just pulled off the bench and snapped into action. But 10 of 15 on the night, 121 yards, 67% completion. He had a beautiful touchdown pass on his first drive, had a great touchdown run. He commanded the offense well. I think he was 9 for 9 on his first 9 attempts. So, you know, he did enough to win the game. He did enough to win the game, but that was almost out of necessity. He's your pass thrower. That's what he's designed to do. He's designed to get the ball to the receivers. He's designed to hand the ball off to other folks to make a play. Yeah, there were some times he was able to use his legs, like I said, in that touchdown run for sure. And on that 4th and 2, he was able to kind of make a play, break down, shift to the right, get 5 yards. But that's I think that's where we're heading. Is he did his job, and he should have been allowed to hand it off to someone else who does their job very well too.
I don't get why we get cute and areas of the field that matter most and situations in the game that matter most. Michael, I have a problem with the defense forcing a strip sack and you recovering the ball at the 4-yard line and your offense going backwards for 3 plays.
That, I mean, of all the sequences, the ending one, yes, I was frustrated, but I think that frustrated me by far the most because we have been clamoring. We have been doing everything we can, praying to golden gods or whatever to try to get some semblance of a pass rush, some semblance of pressure on this quarterback. Was not able to do it last week. Had some luck in against Arizona for whatever reason, but then just completely forgot how to do it over the bye week. Resurrected ourselves. We've already mentioned the 3 sacks. We've already mentioned the 7 tackles for loss. The defense comes through. They do something like that on the first play, wasn't it? Wasn't it the first play of that drive for TCU?
Let me look it up real quick.
Just complete
Yes, one
momentum
play.
changer. Yeah, complete momentum changer. They gift the offense the ball on a 1st and goal, and they can't get into the end zone. I think that whole sequence upset me the most out of this entire game. How can you not get 4 yards against this team, especially when the defense they're right back out there. They got 1 play or 2 plays of rest, and then they're right back out there, and this offense can't score on them. And the Gauchos brought this up. I didn't even do all the math at that time. Oh no, it wasn't that one. It was a different drive where Tech settled for a field goal, and it still remained a 2-score game. So it wasn't really. It didn't make a lot of sense. That was a separate time, I think, in the 3rd quarter. But anyway, yeah, that strip sack just brutal that they couldn't capitalize on that and get in the end zone.
Well, I mean, you did on special teams. You ran a fake field goal.
That'll never work again. That you were lucky that John Carlos Miller, as great as he didn't get called for some sort of holding. When it's just you and the same guy tangled up for 30 lateral yards. At some point, someone typically throws a flag. Tech was really lucky on that. But yes, for the special teams to come through and get that touchdown, just it was tough. That was a tough one to swallow.
I'm not even sure where it's going to be. It would take some digging. The other thing you have a problem with, and this is something that if you're in the Discord, you're going to know what I'm talking about. If you're not, join the Discord. I'm not reading an ad for them because it's benefits me none. It was a 2-possession game. You had 4th and 3, and you elected to kick a field goal. Whether you make the field goal or you miss it, Michael, does not change the fact that it was a 2-possession game.
Correct. And that was something that was lost on me in the moment. I just thought, okay, Tech got some points, stop the bleeding, get a stop. Was that then followed immediately by the 84-yard touchdown? Well, but they were starting to, I think they had come back by that point, or they'd at least scored. They had ended the drought.
Let's see. That could have been. Hold on. Let me. So I don't know if that was the first points Tech scored. She went 7 plays, 21 yards, and then kicked a field goal. And then literally the next play is a 75-yard touchdown pass to Savion Williams. You did have another field goal there at the end. It was probably that. In the 4th quarter. Because if it was a 2-touchdown game, that's when it was. The big 11 minutes left in the game. You are up 21-30. So you're up 10. You kick a field goal 34-21. So it's 10 points to 13 points. You still need 2 touchdowns to win that game. Or to lose the lead. Let's put it that way. You were still up 2 touchdowns for the lead. Just go for it. Because if you can't pick up 3 yards, like that's obviously a problem. I think that indicates a much larger issue. And I don't know, I don't know if Joey's lost touch with the fourth down stuff, if he got too much in his head, if the fans got in his head or whatever from earlier in the year. Um, because the other thing that I've heard people talk about, and it's absolutely like I understand this, and this is a way that like helps me understand it better. What does your opponent want you to do, or what does your opponent not want you to do? Like, do they want you to kick a field goal there? Absolutely. That should probably tell you you probably don't want the field goal. You want to be a little bit more aggressive. Because if you're down, if you're only up 10, okay, that doesn't change much how the game plays out after that. If you're up 17, that absolutely changes how the rest of that game goes. 13 does nothing. Because 2.5 minutes later, TCU scores a touchdown, gets it to within 6, and then 3 minutes after that, they take the lead for good.
Texas Tech was 2 for 2 on 4th down today. So they're at least bringing that number up a little bit as far as averages. But I do think you're right. There has to be a happy medium somewhere of being aggressive. I mean, what were they, 5 of 6 last week? I mean, they had, of course, they were down by a billion, so whatever. But there has to be some kind of happy medium there to where, especially if you're in the lead on the road, I don't know if we would have gotten that upset if they hadn't made it. Because then they get the ball deep in, their own territory.
Let's see. You kicked a 24-yard field goal, which means you were on the 17.
Yeah.
You had a 4th and 3 from the 17.
So that seems like a very good situation to go for it and then go up 2 scores as opposed to
Dude, no,
still
you would have gone
being
up
down
3
by.
scores. You would have gone up 3
Oh,
scores.
you're right. Yeah, at least 2.
So
I did have a question from my pal Ace. He texted me before we went live, and he is asking just kind of a general question: where is the obvious improvement in on-field play since Joey has been here? And he goes on to say, I can't think of one area where we've had obvious improvement. Taj is a good player, but I don't think our running game / scheme really scares anybody.
the running game aspect of it, what scares people is just knowing that Taj Brooks does not go down on first contact. He's a tough back to bring down. The scheme is it's the same play. It's inside zone. He just reads the blocks and takes, he's super patient, takes his time, and makes the most out of most of his runs, I would say. Like there are times when then the patience, like there's just nothing there, and standing around ends up not helping. But like running into the line a second earlier probably wouldn't have changed that. I think through the air, you've seen flashes from both quarterbacks now, from receivers all across the field, including tight ends. But like opponents aren't bothered by it, aren't worried about it because it's not been a consistent staple in what you do.
I don't know if there's been anything consistent in what Texas Tech has done in the last 3 seasons. Well, I mean, I don't know. You could go further than that, but we're just trying to discuss the McGuire era here, at least in this specific topic. But Yeah. To pin down, it's kind of hard to go back and think of a group or a part of this game that has drastically improved since he's taken over. I do think there's something to point to the aggressive nature of how McGuire was handling the fourth down calls in the first season. A lot of those went Texas Tech's way, and so I think that was something that we kind of like to see, and that did get teams on the ropes and it catch them off guard. But then the law of averages caught up with him, and everybody kind of got sick of it. And now we're kind of back to, hey, you should maybe go on fourth down a little bit more often. Maybe try to get a touchdown when you're only up by 10 on the road, and your defense has really struggled recently, as recently as the first drive of this game from there on. But then, they were able to get pressure and get it's so many highs and lows. There is nothing to hang our hat on. Texas Tech finally had their first field goal miss of the day, or of the season, right after that fantastic fake touchdown. And it was Burke. No, am I right? Is it Burkhart?
Yeah. So Burkhart scored the touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 50-yard field goal. Let's hey, that's a, not to use the word 50 again over and over, but it's a 50-50 chance there at best. I mean, a 50-yard field goal from a college kicker, that is not a guarantee. So I'm not putting that on him too much, but we did miss that. The punt team did rough their punter. Luckily, it didn't matter, and the punter actually hit a worse punt afterwards without McRae there. And of course, I know a lot of people are groaning because of McRae's performance last week, but who knows? His current injury, his possible concussion or whatever's keeping him out, could have been hindering his performance last week. We don't know. Jacoby did a good job fielding those best he could, but just extreme, maybe not extreme highs and lows on special teams today. I won't say that because I don't expect every kicker to make a 50-yard field goal, but extreme highs and lows on the offense and extreme highs and lows on the defense.
I guess
that is not a winning recipe.
Yeah, and I understand it's easy with the benefit of hindsight to go back and see, like, why are we still messing around with rotating kickers? Like, we're game 8 of the season. Like, what are we doing?
Well, and
pick one.
It was Garcia. Was it last game or the game before where he did kick all of the field goals?
He took a kick on what would have been Burkhart's turn on a rotation. So it seemed then that maybe the rotation nonsense had stopped.
That's kind of what I thought, but and who's to say Garcia would make a 50-yarder? I'm not putting that on him either. That's a tough one to make, but
no, and I'm not like,
yeah, we're not thinking, oh well, that field goal would have won Tech the game. It could have, but it's a low percentage play. It's worth a shot at that time and at that point in the game. It was, to me, it was worth attempting.
You know, it's a low percentage shot, Michael.
What's that?
Playing prevent defense. You know what it does? Nothing. You know where were you finding success with your defense in this game? When you were being aggressive and getting after the quarterback. You know what happened when you just sat back and played coverage? You got beat through the air.
Picked apart.
So it doesn't make sense. So you say, well, if I bring 6 guys and only leave 5 in coverage, that actually is a better pass defense than bringing 3 guys and dropping 8 into coverage. I've got 8 guys covering 5 receivers. And you'd be right. Those numbers should say you would be better in pass coverage with 8 versus 5. Nope. It's not.
Hang on, I'm going to do some math here. So, 2017, 52, 84. So Texas Tech allowed 248 passing yards on 5 catches.
Of his 344, 5 catches brought you 70% of his passing yards.
Oh yeah, at least. Yes, a little over 70. But yeah, there was the 75-yarder you'd already mentioned, a 20-yarder which was pretty light work really for the day, a 17-yarder, and then the 52-yard pass in the fourth quarter, about that 11-minute mark, and then the 84-yarder, just absolute backbreaker.
You know what's fun?
Had a defender in the area and completely whiffed.
You know what's fun about both those plays, the 75 and the 84-yarder? Getting
Nothing.
to hear Tim Brando tell us that that was the longest play of the TCU season and career highs for those players.
By
And
then
he
I
got to
had
say that twice.
by then I had the volume turned down so low that I missed it.
I guess I'm a sucker. I turned it on, heard it was Brando. I was like, this is gonna suck.
Who
I
was the
just
other guy?
buckled in,
Gardner?
just strapped in. Devin Gardner, running back from Michigan.
Not a fan of the yelling.
He's
Likes to yell.
Yep.
That's how he. That's it. That's his.
It's
A big play happens, and we're gonna yell for a little bit.
So yeah, you gave up 5 passing plays of 15 or more yards for 248 yards. Excuse me. That is an average, Michael, of 50 yards.
Yeah. So, one thing, another thing I'll give the defense credit for is their ability to stop the run. We knew that TCU was not a very good running team. They came in averaging 100 yards per game pretty much. But Tech's defense allowed 53 yards on the ground on the first drive, and that sure sounded like this was going to be a very long day, but I think it ended up really going Tech's way. I think that was about all they allowed the rest of the day.
They had 117 total rushing yards on the day.
Right.
And if you said 53 came on the first drive, 35 of those came on their scoring play. They had another, I can do math, 64 yards the next 9, 10 drives.
Yeah, I mean, that could be attributed to, one, they know they're not a very good running team, and they also got down by 17. So they may have changed their strategies a little bit, but the fact remains Tech was able to keep that running game in check, so that was a positive. Got some bodies up front to get to the quarterback, get tackles for loss. That's a positive, but yeah, that secondary was just absolutely picked apart.
Let's not forget, Michael, Texas Tech had a third quarter 17-point lead.
Yes.
It's not like you jumped out to a 17-point lead and then just like held on. You were actually down. And you fought back into it. And you took a lead into halftime. Miraculously, you had a halftime lead, 17-14. And you came out, you put up 14 more. You went on a 28-0 scoring run.
Yeah.
Got up 17, and you still lost the game.
All of these things sound like reasons that Tech should have won this game.
You had more first downs. You had a lot of third down attempts. You were 8 of 20 on third downs. Perfect on fourth downs. You ran almost 30 more plays than your opponent. You outrushed them. You did not pass them. You were for a while. What's his name? Josh Hoover, I think, into the fourth quarter had 190 passing yards. And then he finishes with 350. Like, good gravy. Let's see, quarter half. Yeah. Through the second half. Sorry, through the first half. They had 145 passing yards. Through the third quarter, at the end of the third quarter, had 181 passing yards. And then puts up 163 more passing yards in the fourth quarter alone. To your 30. Will Hammond had an electric start, went 9 for 9, finished 10 of 15. You had 30 passing yards in the fourth quarter. You had 67 rushing yards. So you had almost 100 yards of offense in the fourth quarter. TCU had 190. Losing the game, we didn't think, going into this game, Michael and I didn't think we were going to win this one. If you told me we lost the game, I wouldn't have been upset about this. I wasn't even really all that frustrated when we got down. Like, we were not playing so well in the first quarter. This is one of those games where I'm most irritated with myself for believing. Like, this is a game where I went into it with low expectations and I allowed myself to believe. And then we lost in the fashion that we ended up losing. This 2 weeks in a row that, like, I'm irritated with myself for believing in this team. Is like, why? Why do I bother? Why does anybody bother? Let's be honest. That's that question. Because this is obnoxious.
Well, let me pour some salt on this wound. So,
oh, please.
After the game was over, Don Williams tweeted out after the press conference, I guess, about. Hang on, I know where you're going.
Something else. Mm-hmm.
Let me get this out first. About Baron Morton's injury. So,
because of course, he's asking about the injuries.
Sure.
Go on.
But he says it was to his non-throwing shoulder. They did X-ray it, but they couldn't determine anything of it. And then these are quotes by McGuire. So, quote, but he was really sore, so we felt like we couldn't put him back in. It's not something that is major, but there is something there. It's not his AC. We feel like it's his collarbone. We cannot see exactly. To the touch, it's to the point. It's really sore, so that's why we went with Will Hammond, end quote. So, possible collarbone injury. Not great either. And I'm no doctor, but that at this point in the season, if Tech makes a bowl game, maybe he could come back for the bowl game if he wants to. But I would assume that would probably do him in. I don't know what kind of collarbone injury is something that can just be rehabbed. Maybe he sits out the game in Ames next week. By the way, Texas Tech goes to Ames next week. That's fun. That's fun to think about. Ames got to sit at home on their couch and watch Ames. The Ames Cyclones.
There it is.
I don't do bits. The Ames Cyclones got to sit on their couch this week and enjoy their bye week and watch this unfold in front of them. They got to have some Will Hammond film to devour. That's great. So, yeah, look forward to how their defense responds to that. But anyway, it's not looking great for Morton. I have no other insight. I have zero insight. It's just I'm reading a tweet from the Lubbock AJ's Don Williams and just thinking it's not good. The chances of seeing Morton back are slim. Who knows?
When I hear it's collarbone and not like a joint, like obviously bone is bone. Like it's not a ligament, it's not a tendon. Like if you injured a bone, it's probably broken.
That's immediately what I think.
Broken bone takes 6 weeks to heal. If you want to count them up on your hands, we do not have 6 weeks left on the schedule. We have 6 weeks out if we make a bowl game, and that's a if at this point. and not that I want to like this isn't any shade at Hammond, but it was questionable whether you're going to make a bowl game before today, before losing Morton. Hammond had a fantastic start, but I'm probably not signing up for let's take our chances with the true freshman quarterback over Baron Morton. If I'm wanting the best possible season outcome, it's not let's go with a true freshman. He could be fantastic at Texas Tech.
And he looked fantastic for the majority of his snaps today. And I don't think anybody's saying different. So just checking in on the rest of Tech's schedule. Oklahoma State. So we already mentioned Iowa State looms next week. Colorado plays tonight. They play Cincinnati. I think that kicks off in 10 minutes. It's 9:50 Central Time right now. So that one hasn't kicked off yet.
You get a bye week.
Oklahoma State did go down today on the road at Baylor, 38-28. And West Virginia did take care of business on the road versus Arizona, 31-26. But Arizona scored 16 in the fourth quarter to make that a little bit, 13 in the fourth quarter to make that a little bit closer than it looks, I believe. So yeah, to echo your point, Spencer, the bowl game possibilities are not something we should really discuss yet. I mean, there's no guarantee Tech's going to get to that 6th win. Utah also lost to Houston.
Wow.
Just wanted to mention that.
Just
17-14, that was the final in front of tens of fans in Houston, Texas.
I believe Oklahoma State is your most likely chance your best chance at a win left on your schedule.
And it's still not a good chance. I still don't like it. I never like going to Stillwater.
They are winless in conference. They're 3-5, 0-5 in Big 12 play. They have Arizona State at home, TCU in Fort Worth. Then they get a bye week, and then it's you at home.
Oh, great. Well, I guess that's Texas Tech's bye week too, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah. So
that worked out well against Baylor. Both had bye weeks.
And then they finished their season at Colorado the following Friday.
I think the only other positive things I wanted to discuss, there's not much, but I thought, well, I could switch gears, get back into the positive mode a little bit. Baskerville's interception was incredible. Chapman Lewis had an interception.
Off of a deflection from Harvey Dyson, who was in coverage.
Just, I mean, big time plays from those guys. And Baskerville he jumped out of the gym on that one. I don't know how he pulled that down. I think Baskerville might have been in on one of those sacks too. So anyway, there were some positives today, but like we've already discussed, just extreme highs, extreme lows, offensive, defensively. It was a very winnable game, even with a true freshman making his first start on the road. Played well enough to win. Absolutely played well enough to win. But the defense couldn't pull their end of the bargain, and the play callers couldn't fathom the thought of a running back taking a carry with less than 2 minutes to go and you're down by 1.
So, yeah. I am still in the camp that 0-4 in this between the bye week stretch is coming. Obviously, you're halfway through it. You're 0-2. You've got your toughest 2 of those 4 coming up. Now you're going to do it without Baron Morton, likely without Baron Morton. I don't know. I got nothing. I got nothing else to add.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm good here.
Let's make sure we get through the questions. I'm sorry, we've neglected. Starter says, why do we keep leaving Macho in coverage? It's because that's who we have left. I don't think it's because they like him over somebody else. I think he's just what's left. Starter also says, do we win the game if we give the ball to Taj on 3rd and 7 instead of running your quarterback? I believe your chances are much higher if you give the ball to Taj. Hindsight here obviously tells me your quarterback's going to fumble it.
Well, and I hesitate to say that Tech would win this game, but yes, the chances improve drastically to be up 2 before you give the ball back over to TCU, who had no timeouts. I believe. I think they burned all 3 on that drive to preserve clock, so they would have been coming back with
like 90 seconds.
Yeah,
which they didn't need.
No, we've seen that
85-yard.
Yeah, they could have scored a touchdown on the first play. Who knows? But I would have taken that chance absolutely.
Last sunrise, darn wedding made me miss the most depressing part of the weekend. Well, you can always rewatch the game.
Oh, and you got to see a couple of people fall in love and start a new life together. It's beautiful. Beautiful fall day. It was a good day to miss this game.
It was beautiful weather, especially here in the 806.
Yeah, it was.
Hey, Steve, in the words of UT's Minister of Culture, real bogey move by Kitley with that play call. Yeah. I don't disagree. Cross Timbers, Red Raider. Am I crazy for thinking that the field goal on 4th and 3 from the 6 is a terrible call? No, you are not alone.
Yeah. You might have missed that earlier, Cross Timbers, but yes, we're with you on that.
Hey, Steve, you also needlessly open up your second string quarterback to a hit. Yeah. Again, like if you're already on your second quarterback of the game, probably shouldn't be running him.
Well, that was I don't care to look up who tackled and forced that fumble on Will Hammond in that play, but that was very close to targeting. And the defender ducked his head down just in time. He grazed Hammond's face mask, kind of with the crown of his helmet as he was ducking his head down. It was not targeting. I'm not saying that it was, but it was a good hit. It was a solid hit, and it looked like it hurt. And yes, that didn't make me feel good either. You're already down. You have your starting quarterback in a sling on the freaking sideline, and you're asking this kid to go get you in the middle of a field so that the field goal might be easier to make.
By the way, Michael, you said the Colorado game was about to start. It's got 6 minutes left in the first quarter.
Oh dang! Why am I so wrong on that? I have been.
They actually Colorado just had a touchdown called back because of a celebration going into the end zone.
Oh no! Oh, that sounds like Colorado though. Yeah,
Also,
I've been so bad. I think I've been getting. I'll see something that's in Central Time, and then I'll see something that's in Eastern, and I see them days apart, and my brain doesn't do the math for me. And so, yeah, that's why I had 10 o'clock in my mind. My bad. So yeah.
Can we
what you got?
Can we be consistent in officiating? Okay, so Colorado has a touchdown waved off because of celebration going into the end zone. You know who celebrated going into the end zone today? Savion Williams. On the 35-yard, he turned around and waved. Is that not a penalty? Like, I
Who is he
I'm
waving
not
to?
soft and
Defenders?
yeah, I'm not soft and saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm offended." Like that's got to be a penalty. But like, let's figure it out and let's be consistent. If a peace sign from Travis Hunter is a penalty and a wave by Savion Williams isn't, like, what are we doing? Which one is it? Pick one. Enforce it the same, whether it's not a penalty or it is, and let's move on.
Oh, here's something I'm enjoying right now. So I've switched the TV over to ABC, and I'm watching the Fighting Texas Aggies host
I want to watch that game.
LSU. It's pretty good. A&M's up 28-3. They're driving.
Wait,
They're in the
28 to
red
3?
zone. Oh no, I'm so sorry. 28-23. 28-23. That's what the score is. And I mainly bring this up just because A&M is wearing their traditional all black uniforms.
Oh, so very traditional look for them.
Yeah, big time. 12th man. All black. Just drowning in tradition, and they just scored. So 34-23, extra point pending.
Oh, well, you're ahead of me because you're watching
Yeah, I'm over the air.
the terrestrial broadcast.
That's right. That's right. I got me one of them antennas.
Antennae. Okay, so that just
like
happened.
our forefathers watched college football.
Colorado, Cincinnati. Who's wearing gray? Is that Cincinnati? Yes. This, I'm sorry. Like, I know I look old with all this white hair. I'm really not that old. I'm kind of over the showboating, and we're having too much fun. Like, this is getting ridiculous. Like, Colorado celebrating every play, pulling out necklaces, and cool. You made an 8-yard catch, Travis Hunter. Cool, good for you. You made a routine catch. Why are you throwing up hand signs to the stands?
Well, it wasn't
8 yards.
Tech did that after allowing
Bro.
five touchdowns in a row versus Baylor. I think I saw the belt come out at least once. I thought, come on, guys, read the room. Put the belt in the tire.
Let's go look at the Kansas State game real quick.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure that's a thriller. It actually
was.
is.
Yeah, I was watching that before we went live, but I was afraid my bandwidth would have streaming issues, so I switched to some other games.
Kansas 27, Kansas State 26.
Ooh.
In Manhattan.
I think it was 16-14 at halftime, something like
that. Anyways. I haven't gotten back to it yet, Michael. I was saving it and I forgot about it, but I'm back. Don Williams got triggered by something Kyle Jacobson tweeted, and I was here for it. I loved it. Blue hair. Oh my gosh, he didn't even. Oh, he's interacting too. He just doesn't get it. I love it. I love it for him. Okay. So if you haven't seen it, the Gauchos tweeted, Lubbock Media, here are the questions you ask in the postgame presser and on Monday. How do you lose a game in which you win on a 28-0 run? What was the logic for kicking a field goal to make a two-possession game remain a two-possession game in the fourth quarter? How do you blow a 17-point second half lead? What failures in preparation led to the defense looking completely lost, seeing Savion Williams line up in the backfield even though it's been on film for weeks? What is wrong with your football team's culture that has led to the inability to finish a game that we've witnessed all season? Since you opted to surrender and play for the field goal with 2 minutes left, what was the reasoning behind putting the ball in the hands of your true freshman quarterback versus your fifth-year senior running back? Do you regret rotating kickers on a 50-plus yard attempt since you sent out a kicker whose career long was 41 yards instead of a kicker who has made multiple 50-plus yard field goals? And he wraps up, all completely fair questions that deserve a real answer and not a slogan or movie quote. Don replies in his triggered state, Twitter account that doesn't actually travel for games. Perhaps you should get off your couch. What's the point he's trying to make?
I don't know.
Because guess what? The Gauchos have probably been to more games than most other Twitter fans that you would be referencing here. So that argument's out the window. But also, what
is he going to give? Is he going to give the Gauchos a press credential? He doesn't even have that power.
If a fan is in the stands, do they get to ask questions? No.
No, I don't understand. I didn't understand that at all. Even if someone showed up to the games and demanded to ask those questions, well, you don't have a credential, and that's not gonna fly. And Don's not gonna grant it for you because he can't. So the complete logic of that made no sense to me.
2 points I like to point out. What was who is he writing for? Like who is Don like I'm not talking about like his boss, his editor. Who is Don Williams accountable to? Like who is he producing content for? It's Joe Blow fan, right? And it makes sense to have a limited number of people accessible to the program to ask questions. It's just easier to control everything and have a handle on it, right? So you delegate access to a couple of people to then share it out with the masses. If enough people want to know the answer to a question, maybe you should like listen and perhaps sack up and ask a question that maybe you didn't think of. Or maybe one that scares you. I don't know. Like have some intestinal fortitude in a sack and be like, hey, like what's what happened in this game right here? You shouldn't be scared of any backlash. And if you are, that's indicative of the program and not of you doing your job. Like we would actually defend you more if you asked tough questions. Lubbock Media, Don included. All right. And then a Twitter account called the Smooth Toad screenshotted this instead of just quote tweeting everything. And said, what an effing a-hole. He's part of the culture problem too. Referencing Don. Someone says, half for real, the best of the culture is the Anons on Twitter doing nothing but try to tear down the program from the inside out. Smooth Toad comes back. Dude's been useless for a long time. No one agrees with you on this. Don getting fired isn't going to do anything for the program except get the coaches to have more accountability. Somebody within this thread, his name's Pito, says the AJ has been dead for years, so has Donnie. Don comes back. You still follow me, Pito.
So
again, being
can
the
you
only
spell?
source of info does not make you good. It just means you're the only one.
Pedo's not spelled P-E-D-O, is it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, good.
P-I-T-O.
Oh, okay.
It's not pedo, it's pedo.
Got it. I just did like the get off your couch thing. Like it's some feat to.
So what if you were in the stadium? That's not going to give you access to the press game, the press conference.
We got to do that one season, and I mean it's there's nothing to it. You get a parking pass. You get escorted to the stadium. They take you up out of the elements. You're not in the sun. You're not in the cold. You're not in the hot. They feed you. They find you a place to sit. You're given Wi-Fi. You get to hear the stats the entire game. They print the stats every quarter for you. I mean, it is. I still don't know what he's trying to get at there. I'm not saying that having deadlines and traveling that he gets reimbursed for is not difficult. It is. It's not fun being away from your family or anything, but I just don't know. Hey, you do what I'm doing on your own dime. I don't know what that's supposed to convey. You do what I'm doing on your own dime, on your own time, and then we'll talk. Okay.
Yeah.
Give me
So
a press pass.
if you look at the Gaucho's tweet, Don got like absolutely ratioed off the face of the planet. So go back to Don's his own timeline. He gives an update. I think you shared it about the Baron Morton injury.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody says, "Did you ask him any questions, Don?" He said, "I did. I always do."
Well, and that's what's kind of frustrating about this being an away game. We're not having that access right away, so stuff's trickling out as opposed to by now we would have that press conference on YouTube to watch.
So that's all I had. That's all I got. Don can suck a lemon for all I care. Right from the sunset, brother.
I am not a Don hater, but that tweet made no sense.
The only time I've actually ever heard Joey McGuire irritated or frustrated is because Don Williams wouldn't shut up asking the same stupid questions about an update to an injured player that was on the injury report. And Joey's like, "It's in the report. Read the report." And he asked him another question. He's like, "It's in the report. Read it." And he asked him again. He's like, "Don, like, if you're not going to read it, we're going to stop putting it out." Next question. Like, what kind of idiot badgers somebody on something that's been handed to them? Read the effing paper, you moron. Does it matter that a data rate injured his knee in practice, a scrimmage versus no, it really doesn't, Don. It really doesn't. So freaking clueless. Get off your couch. Sure. A ticket to the game gets you access to the post-game press conference. Again, clueless. It's out of touch. Like, who are you writing for? The fans. You know, it was originally like, that's why reporters wrote about the games, because they weren't on TV. You couldn't watch it. You couldn't listen to the game. Like, that was the only way you would know what happened at the game, was by reading what the reporters put out. If you're not asking the questions in the post-game press conference, like, your job is covered for us. We can watch the game for ourselves. You're there to ask questions that we can't ask. And if your response to a legitimate set of questions you could ask is get off your couch, like, maybe it's time for you to find something else to do, man. That's just me. That'll do it. That's all I got. I said that several times. We will be back sooner than normal. We'll be recording Monday night. I'll be in rainy Seattle. But we'll do our Iowa State kind of pointless preview, if I'm being honest, but we'll still do it because we're, gluttons. But that'll do it. For Michael, I'm Spencer. I'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23Personnel, Spencer at PuntSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.